Anybody else? And welcome to another town hall. So I can't even. Is this number five? It might be five. It might be six. I don't know actually. I think it's number five. So at least five. So it's been awesome to be able to do these. I think it's been great. Obviously there is so much that's going on in the business, and there would be anyways. But there's a few other things that are a little bit different, clearly, with the with what's going on in the world. And I think there's a lot of positive things right now. And to me, I think there's it's a one we're in a once in a lifetime, probably once in a lifetime, at least in the sense that this is the first time we'll see it for sure. But this is a once in a lifetime kind of scenario and summer and place to navigate. And I feel super fortunate to be able to get the experience going through it. Again, it doesn't mean it's not challenging or things to figure out, but I think there's a lot pointing in good directions for us as a business and as entrepreneurs in general. So that's kind of just quickly where my head's at as we kind of check in, and I'll pass it over to you, Tony. I know there's been some questions to directly go through, and then just anything else that you've got to kind of share as you've seen out there. So I'll pass it over to you, Tony.
Great, thank you. Couple of things, and I'm glad we don't start recording. I guess before we start recording, that's when I can swear on this, and it's not going to get recorded, and people may make comments. So thanks to everyone for being on, and I think we are welcoming some new franchisees on this call, potential franchise candidates, technicians if you brought them on the call, parents, siblings, pets, all of those things. And it's been an interesting week. I don't know if it's a destiny week or not, because I don't know how College Pro came back into my life, or I sort of know why, but and how I've come to be a part of this right now, and how Aaron and I are back connected and the team. But it feels like it's for right now. It feels like this is a very defining moment for College Pro, and it has been for the last 5 weeks. And I'll talk a little bit about that, because I think there's some interesting subsidies that have come out, and the Prime Minister is getting involved in the student world, and our good-looking, good-haired, blue-eyed Prime Minister is getting involved in our world, which I think is going to be a great defining moment for us. But if I was going to say one thing that I would want you to write down, it's the idea of 10x. And what Aaron and I have been talking a lot about is how do we 10x the experience? And the marketplace is already doing that for you. And I want you to think about 2030. And in 2030, when someone looks, either you're going to be getting a bank loan, a mortgage, you might be running a business, and you're interviewing an employee, and they said, what did you do in 2020? Everyone is going to point to this summer and this time and ask, what did you do? Were you in the game, or were you on the sidelines? And you may not think that there's going to be judgment on whether you're in the game or on the sidelines. There's this idea in decision making called signaling. And I can tell you, having looked through a lot of applications and a lot of resumes and helped my son and daughter put together their resumes, and saying they're signaling. You have to signal success. You have to signal that you're in it. You have to signal that you can solve problems. The great news about College Pro, you don't have to pretend. Not that my kids were pretending, but because they can probably hear me right now through the walls. But it's just, what are you signaling to the world? And so it's going to be super important, and it doesn't help. It may or may not help, but on what's come out this week. But we'll talk a little bit about that. So there's two things. It's really interesting because, and I'll talk a little more about the subsidy stuff that's coming out, or the student subsidies that the Prime Minister talked about. But I was talking to my daughter, who's she's 24, first half year at Ivy in a 1-year program, and I said, well, hey, the Prime Minister is saying, you may not need to get a job. And she said, in what world can I not get a job this summer? they're going to look at this summer, and this is me getting educated from somebody in the arena saying, I can't, no one in my business school can afford not to work and not have something on their resume this summer. We're super anxious. That doesn't help our cause. The fact that we might get money from the government. So it's really interesting. And one of the things inside College Pro, what I want you to think about 10X is, I remember in my career as a CEO, one of the things we always said is people don't see the value of College Pro till they're 5 years out. And because of one virus, people are seeing the value of it right now. So call it the Future Now program, where all of a sudden, I'm going to make the argument that your people who are doing things, and it doesn't matter if you're in College Pro or doing something else or have a job, people who are doing something in the next 4 to 6 months are going to have a multiplier on the rest of their life if they're doing something that's of meaning to help them on the rest of their life. That's what I'm going to focus on for all of you. I have never been more committed, even in the last 5 weeks. I'm up here, I'm committed, but I'm committing to actually adding more value so you can maybe make that a 20X or a 30X on your trajectory, because it's Together Realizing Potentials, but realizing potential is a contact sport. You got to be doing stuff to do that. And that's what we do. And I want to go back to a couple things. I know I've said it before. If you listen to the other town halls, you go, okay, you can fast forward on this part because I've said some of this before. But I'm making an additional promise on that 10X and maybe 20X on how can we make this even more valuable. And Aaron may be introducing a few things that we're doing in the next little while to do that as well. But here's the promise to not lose sight of. College Pro is a life-changing opportunity and the most extensive experience in this age group that you can have. And right now we're doing it in a life-changing time, and you're investing, and it's a deep investment in that future, as well as getting a lot out of the summer. And remember also, we're do no harm, right? We have said that from day one. We do not want anyone doing anything that's going to put them at harm, and public health is our guide on that. And then safe and successful, that's the promise. It's going to be safe, and we're going to be successful. We'll keep navigating it. So that's really, really important. And everything that we're doing right now is to hit the go button. And it is funny, and I sent this to the group. My lawn care company's coming on Monday. And I didn't send them the email back saying, why are you coming? Because you're not an essential service. If I have brown grass, I think that's okay in the general essential. So I think things are starting to ramp up. So that's my lawn care. That's not lawn cutting. That guy's been coming from day one without telling me. Just shows up. And I guess he wants a check at some point. But it's just like the entrepreneur pushing that part of it. I'm not saying to do that. And don't forget what we're doing on the modern entrepreneur in real time. What we're doing, I didn't know what College Pro 5.0, and we're going to have an awesome party in October 2021, by the way, for our 50th anniversary, and hopefully a good party as a lead up to that this year as we give all of you awards and we celebrate what we've been through together. But don't forget what we've done: recruiting remotely, training remotely, coaching remotely, social selling, additional PC sources. We learned how to lobby, WhatsApp as a learning tool, deepen peer-to-peer. The communication level is as good or better than I see in any of our other organizations. Rapid prototyping, come up with an idea, get it done. Learning how to use personal protective equipment. And what we're also becoming as of Wednesday is human behavior economists. What's going to actually happen with human behavior? I don't know if I know this is being recorded. I don't know if everyone's heard this, but I think the leader of the free world told people that maybe they should ingest Lysol. That's what happened last night in a press conference. I'm not saying anything like that, but when that happens, so that happened, and you go, So what we're experiencing, we can't use the information that we're experiencing as a proxy for what the truth is all the time, or what the right thing is to do. Everyone who's on this call, including me having become a part of College Pro again, and the full-time staff and all of you, the reason that we're doing this, all we're doing with COVID is overcoming obstacles. The reasons that we're doing this haven't changed. So I implore everyone, in terms of that problem solving, decision making, flexibility, which is those future of work skills, which we have deeply inside the organization. We talked about it last week. You have to make decisions on what the real factual data is. And that's certainly what I'm pushing in all the organizations I'm involved in. All my mentees, in terms of the people that I work with forever, advising and consulting, the boards that I'm on, it's all about that. What decisions are you using to make all of your decisions? What information are you using to make all your decisions? And so I wanted to talk about start with talking about, before we get into some of the questions, start with talking a little bit about what Trudeau came out with, and we don't have all the details. So this I'm going to split it off. So everything that's come out so far, we just had a phone call this morning with BDO, who's a College Pro accountant, and they just hammered through everything. So we feel super comfortable. If there's any other questions about everything that we've talked to up to this point, like 75% wage subsidy, we didn't talk really about CERB that much this morning with BDO, because that's individual. We were talking about business, the $40,000 loan. Feel free to email me or contact me, and I can tell you more about that. But I really want to talk about that, the wage subsidy. And from what I understand, it goes something like this: if you cannot find a job, the government will allow you to earn between $1,250 and $1,750 a month. $1,750 is if you're taking care of, if you have a disability, you're taking care of someone with a disability. And then there's a bunch of money available for volunteers, which is great. So and you can make up to $1,000 a month. So if I was an employee and I work part-time, 16 hours, I believe it's 16 hours a week, if I'm not mistaken, then, underneath that 1,000, I'm just looking out the window because all the masks and all the masks and all the protective gear is getting delivered to my house, and I've not told my wife yet. So I'll break it to her as the boxes are coming up to the front door. It's just the entrepreneurial part of everything. So going back to the subsidy. So I'm trying not to take it super personally, but really what that does, and this is what's really important for you in your text, is what it says is if you make up to $1,000, you can still earn that money. So the government is saying, because of all this, we understand if you can't get a job, and we're gonna pay you effectively to stay home and do nothing. My undergrad was in economics. I can do the math on that. It basically is, hey, if you never really wanted to work anyway, we're still paying you not to work, or didn't want to find a job. So there's a whole section of the economy, and I don't know what parents, if there's parents on this call, what they're advising their sons and daughters to do, but I know everyone in my house is going to be working, because that's just, I do not want them to lose the opportunity of having a summer experience, or an experience right now, right in this situation. But understand, if there's two things. One of the questions that we were asked is, do the franchisees, should they apply for this? And this is the disclaimer. I can't tell you, understand that as the CEO of a franchise organization, I can't tell you on a recording to do it or not do it. And you have to have your own counsel on that. Look at the rules. We'll get the rules in front of you, and you can decide. Use your decision making. Talk to your parents. Whatever happens, if that is and this is, I'm making myself available all weekend, all evenings. If any of that makes you think that you shouldn't run a franchise versus should run a franchise, that's a big issue. Not for us, because we have more people wanting to run businesses than we've ever seen, but think about why you wanted to do this. I hope that's not your decision-making path. Really, the decision-making path should be, if someone's going, how do I best use some of that? If there's a reality in my situation, and still do what I want to do this summer. So I'm not problem solving. I wouldn't be problem solving, or I'm not recommending you problem solve. I really think you should think about what it means for you and what it means for your techs. More importantly, for the techs, you just may have a lot more part-time techs. So if someone said, what would I do? There's that great Quentin did an awesome job last week. And there's that great spreadsheet. I think we're going to have to alter it to part-time techs. I think we're going to have techs who aren't you, because you've taken a step out there. And I don't know if the money's going to run out. So $9 billion, I know it seems like a lot of money, but it's not. That money goes pretty fast. And how many students there are. And what I'll try and do is find out how many students are expected to be on that, see if and when it might run out, or when that money is going to come to you, and you decide to do a lot of that. So in terms of the under the bubble of should I do it, should my techs do it, go under that. That is going to be up to you. And what we will do is really try and focus on how do you work within the system that's been given to us. I'm not really thinking that it's going to impact it, other than what do I think will most likely happen based on economics and behavior economics. You're going to have people who want to earn the $1,000 and earn, your technicians that earn the $1,000 and earn the $1,250 that are given. Regardless of the fact that I can tell you about 5 kilometers away from here, there's a whole values question around this, that there's people that really need it. And I hope there's enough money for it to go around for everyone. There's people that really need it. I would hate to think that people that don't need it are taking it. But that's you. That I can't make those decisions. I'm telling you, it's sort of my personal feeling on a lot of that. With that, so I think it's not a super high hard problem to solve. And you got to look at the end. I think one of the things I said in one of my first town halls is you have to find the end. How do we run the business and work within this new set of parameters that are fake parameters? And why I say they're fake parameters, whenever you have a subsidy of some sort, it doesn't really necessarily, it doesn't make you wash a window any faster. It doesn't actually change your future unless you become, you believe that your whole world will be subsidies and you don't have to work anymore. I don't know what kind of world that will be. But really, in terms of the dynamics of a business, in terms of what, it doesn't make you stop having to call customers to get the money to serve those customers. So I'm trying not to be unrealistic about it, because I know it's going to have some dynamics. I would just implore all of us to talk it through. And I will personally make myself available to talk through with parents, so all of your parents, technicians' parents, to say, why should my son or daughter still be working? But understand the way we're built and what we stand for. We're entrepreneurs and we're problem solvers, and we make our own luck. And in order to make your own luck, you actually have to be doing something to make your own luck. You don't make your own luck staying at home. So I think as much as I wouldn't want to say something like this, there does ultimately become a line of, why did I want to do this? It's for all of these experiences, some of which are entrepreneurial, some of all management and all that stuff. What I want to do is that, and going over the line, and let's keep going forward together. I wish it was way more complicated. It's not. And all I can tell everyone on the call and people who are problem solving with their technicians is to keep problem solving it. I think we have to solve maybe 500 or 600 problems delegated between or out to all of you. And the problem is I got to have enough technicians to do the work that I committed to. That's a problem you have to solve. And how do you best do that? I think you're going to have another tool that's going to make it's going to make your lives maybe more complicated or maybe not. I just don't know. Because there's still going to be the Canada Summer Jobs Grant that people are applying for. There's still going to be a bunch of things. I do know you're not going to be able, was clear with BDO this morning is you are not going to be able to double dip. You can't double dip, right? There can't be, it's all going to be social insurance number based. It's all going to be, you can't have infinite enough amount of money coming over your bow from the government on this stuff. And then just before I get into some of these other questions, the analogy of being in the game versus not being a spectator is really, really important here. And we're just not a business. If the government said, I'm going to pay you all the money, Tony, that you've invested in College Pro, and in fact, give you a profit on that money, if you did nothing, would you do it? I can't do it. It's just not in my DNA, and it's not in the College Pro DNA. So it's just not what when we were looking at buying the company, Edward Lehman, who you met, there was one question: does the world still need College Pro? And if the world still needs College Pro, buy it. And if the world does not need College Pro, walk away. And Dan and I said the world still needs College Pro, and this is this is like our defining moment in a lot of ways into the next 50 years. And as I said last week, some of you are going to be around College Pro for a long time, helping build it across North America, maybe the world. Maybe one of you will be CEO in the future, or CEO of a bunch of companies. I can tell you that people who've come out of this program because of the road tested work that they've had while they've been here, multi-billion-dollar companies, major innovators, and this is innovators on nonprofit, and it doesn't necessarily mean just in business. So I think that's going to be multiplied just because of the math, and it's just people who are in the game and people who were spectators and being paid to be spectators. I think it's a different, and maybe that's too harsh. And I also understand everyone has different family and personal situations, but I can give you my commitment is now I'm going to double down on College Pro because, and this is my entrepreneurial, if you have a chance to invest in a group of people, and if that 1 hour of investment could mean maybe 10x of value in their lifetime because of the competitive environment, do you do it? And my answer is yes. So you're going to see different things from me. You'll see different things from College Pro in general to make sure that we're keeping that investment going now and throughout the rest of the summer. So a couple of questions here, and then I'll open up to questions. Feel free to put questions in the chat. Someone asked a question about essential services getting pay raises. When the new list comes out, we will be a non-essential service, that it's okay. Like, I think building entrepreneurs is an essential service, but nobody's really listening to me. So I think what we're doing right here is an essential service. But in terms of pay raises, do not worry about that. I believe what's going to happen is we will be on a non-essential list. So in that case, it'll just pay people what you can, what you'd normally pay them. That being said, one of the things you may want to think about is how do you share the wealth with your techs? If they're going to be working full time for you and you're getting a subsidy of some support, in some way, how do you share some of that love with them? I'll leave that up to you guys because I think that's going to be important. It might be an interesting thing for us to have a mini town hall on. Just how do you, because not only are you asking, some situations you're asking your techs to not stay on the sidelines as you go forward, considering, the world is saying it's okay to sit on the sidelines. The world is not saying it's okay to sit on the sidelines. The world is saying, just in case you can't get a job, here's what you should do. But everyone's going to think that that's the world. It's up to us to look at that decision differently. I've been getting I don't know what a lot of customers or some customers saying they may do it themselves. I can tell you I'm not going to be washing my own windows. And there's a very specific reason. I don't want to get up on a ladder if I'm not insured. And we have very specific things. And I would have a series of questions, of comments to a customer, say, please do not wash your upper windows on the outside. If you want to do stuff, knock yourself out. It's free will, free choice. But I would say, hey, just let's at least do the upper around the house. And this is the hustle for the entrepreneurs. Not always, but I guarantee they will not start washing their windows until you've come to do the upper outside. And the way I would sell that is, don't wash any of the windows. See how you feel when we come. We'll do the uppers. That would be my solution to that. But please advise your customers, do not get on a ladder. Only insured, only trained. We've been trained. I just it stresses me out to think. I mean, I watch my neighbor who's 85 get on I usually, from my window, I stop, I go down there, I go, okay, I know you're already up there. I'm going to hold the ladder and I want you to come down slowly. You should not be up on a ladder. Same thing as my neighbor who sometimes gets on a roof. I'm literally out, but you don't have a fall rest system on. I don't know what you think you're doing. And I'm going to tell your wife that you're doing this. You should not be doing this. And these are the types of things, like, I don't know how people are making these decisions. They're really, the inside of the windows, I think you may get that, but that's the progression. And then I already dealt with retaining text despite grant announcement. And this is just we've been dealt another card. I'd be really interested to see how all of you are, and I'd also be willing to do with technicians, because we may have more technicians because of this, to do a value added development program for the techs, where they say, not only was I a technician, but I was involved in a manager and training program with College Pro that was virtual in the summer. Like, let's have a little bit of fun, and let's see you. Although I think all of you are going to get 10x plus, can we help the techs get 2 or 3x plus? And that's what we have to be thinking. The same way that Aaron, the team, and I are thinking about all of you, you should be thinking about your techs. How do I 2 or 3x this for them? How do I get something created in my business for them? And if all of you have ideas on how we can help your techs, so they have a 2 or 3x to stay committed. So when on their September 1st resume, it says something that it wouldn't have otherwise said. Let's create that, because we're doing rapid prototyping right now in all the different businesses, and in College Pro. We're happy to try and, whether that's a virtual training program, online training on skills, career skills, and some of that can also be for franchisees. And just how do we add more value, so when we pop out of this, everyone's going to puff out their chest a little bit and say, okay, like, let's rock and roll. We're entrepreneurs. We were here. We did this. What's next? So that's my answer. I am going to work with College Pro to be a champion. I'm an entrepreneurial evangelist. I'm going to work with my work here and with the Work and Clear Summit Group to really, really focus on what our story is. And our story has always been about all of you, and all of you as entrepreneurs, and how we're going to keep moving that forward. I don't see any reason that mission or purpose isn't as or more important than anything else. I'm going to stop there. I think those are all the questions. Is there anything else? I'm going to look at the chat. Right. Yeah. So it's sort of half the productivity based on that chat, right? And I see Jess, the lawn care companies, I don't know, there's not a lot of shaming going on. I guess people look away on all this stuff. Any other chat questions and any other, so I guess the final message is if you have questions, put it in the WhatsApp group. I'm always on that and we'll answer it, trying to minimize how much I make comments because you guys have a vibe that really isn't like, it's sort of like an old guy putting their comments on that, and I don't totally get all the stuff all the time. So, and I have a limited amount of talents, as most of the people know. So, can't keep putting stuff in there. Someone asked, how likely is it for us to receive CSJ subsidy? I don't know if Clarissa's on or Aaron, what your
there's like no answer. You know what I mean? It's just so different. It's not there's not like a percentage to go on it. It's completely in the decision making of the office of your MP. So that was the value, I think, big time, of making sure they know who you are and what you're doing. So it's completely based on office by office, person by person. It's not like a system where it puts it in and it spits out who gets it and who doesn't. My understanding is that it's very individual decision, and it's very based. I mean, we looked at all the responses that I saw from different franchisees, from different MPs, was just completely across the board. Some were saying, unless you're deemed essential, we're making sure that all our funds go to anything that's deemed essential. Some were like, great, fantastic, just let us know how many you might need. There's just a whole, wide variety. So it depends on who your MP is, depends on if they know who you are, and it depends if you were able to connect in, or if you had an application in before the deadline or after. So I know that's it depends, but that's unfortunately the answer with CSJ every year, just by the way, every year, let alone now with some of the extra stuff.
Yeah, and it's interesting. This is the duality of this is like a personality disorder for the government right now. And by the way, I think they've done the best they can do. But just understand what they were saying with CSG. We're going to have a bunch of new money. Please work. And now they've said, we're going to give you a bunch of money in case you can't work. Now, I don't know the economics of that. So they're trying to do all things for all people. I'd imagine because a lot of the MPs have kids so that aren't going to be working. It's interesting what sort of drives some of this stuff. I imagine some have kids and won't be working. But all I can tell you is by next town hall, I am going to commit that we'll have scenarios figured out. Maybe Quentin, you and I will get back on or a bunch of the group will get that spreadsheet redone to say, how do you work within all of this in the scenarios, in different scenarios. So you already have the work. And by the way, I didn't say, I don't know if everyone's looked at the headlines, but 3 weeks ago it was about COVID. Now it's about getting people back to work. That is really, really, really good news for us. And I believe in the Western provinces, if there's anyone out West, then you'll see that that's already started. So very excited about that. Cautiously optimistic about that. Not excited, cautiously optimistic. But they're just giving us a set of guidelines that we have to work within, and we'll work with them. So by next week, what I hope to have, because guess what? I probably won't be doing all the work. I just say, I make a promise, and then everyone on this call has to deliver it sometimes, but I'll try not to do that. I'll do work shoulder to shoulder with you on it, but I think I don't think it's going to be complicated. I just think we have to do a few more reps on getting techs, but I see a scenario where you might have double the techs, and you go, okay, double the techs, and let's work with the system, and let's move on. And I think that's a fairly easy. So instead of 35 hours a week, we're going to go to 32 hours a week. but with double the techs, right? In our heads, sort of double the techs with the same equipment, and it might take a little longer per day. Just sort of is what it is. Any other questions? Heard from you. Productive hours. There's not anything else for anyone. I thank everyone. My number's on the WhatsApp group. If you want to contact me directly, my email is tvalle@collegepro.com. If you got texts that you and your texts want to talk to me, or anyone on the call, we'll do that. I'll make my time as available as possible. Sometimes it has to be in the evenings and on weekends or early in the morning. With a bunch of other stuff I'm doing, but anything urgent, I'm happy to talk to anybody about. We're learning everything in real time together. So the only thing I can tell you is we're pretty good problem solvers at College Pro. In fact, I almost on the edge of, relative to not to my age group, but to your age group. You're world-class problem solvers in how we approach things. We'll continue to do that. And again, couldn't be happier to be in College Pro versus doing something else at this point on everything that we're facing. So if there's nothing else, I think we're good, Aaron.
Awesome. Well, have a great weekend, everybody. We got a lot of cool trainings coming up, not just production trainings. And I couldn't agree more with one being happy that this is where I am, and doubling down and thinking on exactly the specifics that are skill wise and option wise for everybody. And some really cool stuff coming up, I think. So stay tuned, and we'll talk to everybody next week, I guess, at the very least. But have a great weekend. Stay healthy. We'll talk to everybody soon.
Have a good weekend.